Most attractive men have no idea they're attractive. They think women only notice money, looks, or status. But the truth is, the men women remember are often the ones who never try to impress anyone. If you've ever wondered why some people are naturally drawn to you without knowing why, stay until the end, because the final sign is the one most attractive men completely overlook, and it changes everything. One of the clearest signs that you're a highly attractive man has very little to do with your appearance. In fact, it often has nothing to do with your looks at all. The most attractive men rarely spend their time trying to convince people that they're valuable. They don't constantly seek approval, attention, or reassurance because they already know who they are. This quiet confidence creates a magnetic presence that people notice immediately. The strange part is that many men believe attraction comes from doing more, talking more, showing off more, posting more, proving more. But genuine attraction works in the opposite direction. The harder you try to force someone to admire you, the more you communicate that you need their approval. Real confidence never begs to be recognized. It simply exists, and because it exists, people naturally become curious. They want to understand why this man seems so comfortable with himself when everyone else is competing for attention. Validation is one of the most addictive things in today's world. Social media has trained people to measure their worth through likes, comments, compliments, and constant reactions from others. Many men unknowingly fall into the same trap. They dress to impress strangers, speak to receive praise, work only to gain status, and even enter relationships hoping someone else will make them feel complete. The problem is that when your confidence depends on another person's opinion, you hand them control over your emotions. Your mood rises when they approve of you and falls when they don't. That emotional dependence is impossible to hide. People can sense it in the way you speak, the way you text, the way you react to silence, and the way you constantly seek reassurance. Confidence that relies on external validation is fragile because the source of that confidence is outside your control. Highly attractive men operate differently. They don't enter conversations hoping everyone will like them. They don't feel the need to win every argument or be the loudest person in the room. They're comfortable disagreeing respectfully because they understand that not everyone has to approve of them. They know their values, they know their standards, and they know what they bring into people's lives. This certainty removes the pressure to perform. Instead of trying to become interesting, they become genuinely interested. Instead of trying to impress others, they focus on understanding people. Ironically, this shift makes them far more attractive because people enjoy being around someone who isn't secretly asking for validation in every interaction. Think about the people who naturally command respect. They don't constantly remind everyone how successful they are. They don't interrupt conversations to talk about their achievements. They don't exaggerate their lifestyle to appear more important. Their actions speak before their words ever need to. They let consistency build their reputation instead of constantly managing how others perceive them. That's why people trust them. Authenticity is far more persuasive than performance. When a man is secure in his identity, he doesn't need to advertise it. His decisions, his discipline, and his behavior communicate everything that needs to be said. This also changes the way women respond to you. Many men believe attraction is created by endless effort, sending constant messages, always being available, giving non-stop compliments, and trying to prove they're different from every other man. But when someone feels you're constantly seeking their approval, the dynamic becomes unbalanced. Instead of creating mystery, you create predictability. Instead of creating excitement, you create pressure. Attraction grows when both people choose each other freely, not when one person spends all their energy trying to earn acceptance. A man who values himself doesn't need to convince someone to stay. He understands that mutual interest is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. People naturally seek your attention when they realize you're not desperate for theirs. This isn't about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about genuinely having a full life that doesn't revolve around being liked. You have goals that excite you, responsibilities that matter, and principles that guide your decisions. Your happiness isn't paused while waiting for someone to text back. Your confidence doesn't disappear because someone disagrees with you. You continue moving forward regardless of who applauds, because your purpose is bigger than public opinion. That level of emotional independence is incredibly rare, and rarity always attracts attention. There's another reason this quality is so powerful. People feel emotionally safe around someone who isn't constantly searching for approval. They know your kindness isn't manipulation. Your compliments aren't strategies. Your generosity isn't a transaction expecting something in return. Everything you do feels more genuine because it isn't driven by hidden insecurity. When your self-worth comes from within, every interaction becomes lighter, calmer, and more authentic. Others stop feeling like they're responsible for making you feel valuable, and that freedom allows stronger, healthier connections to develop naturally. The most attractive men understand that respect always comes before admiration. They refuse to sacrifice their standards just to fit into a crowd or gain temporary attention. They can walk away from situations that don't align with their values because they know losing approval is sometimes the price of keeping self-respect. They don't fear rejection because they understand rejection is information, not a definition of their worth. Every experience teaches them something, but none of those experiences determine who they are. That mindset creates emotional stability, and emotional stability is one of the rarest forms of attractiveness a man can possess. One of the biggest misunderstandings about attractive men is the belief that confidence and arrogance are the same thing. They are not even close. Arrogance is loud because it constantly needs to be seen. It depends on comparison, competition, and superiority. An arrogant man walks into a room hoping everyone notices him. He feels the need to prove he's smarter, richer, stronger, or more successful than the people around him because deep down, his confidence is built on fragile foundations. The moment someone else appears more accomplished, more attractive, or more respected, that confidence begins to crack. Self-respect, however, creates a completely different kind of confidence. It doesn't need an audience, applause, or validation. It exists whether people admire it or ignore it. A highly attractive man doesn't measure his value by asking whether he's better than someone else. He measures it by asking whether he's living according to his own standards. That difference changes the way he speaks, the way he carries himself, and the way people respond to him. Self-respect begins with the promises you make to yourself when no one is watching. It means keeping your word even when breaking it would be easier. It means choosing discipline over comfort, honesty over convenience, and growth over excuses. Every time you respect your own boundaries, you strengthen your identity. Every time you abandon your values just to gain someone's approval, you weaken it. This is why some men appear confident in public, but secretly struggle with insecurity. Their confidence is based on performance rather than character. They know how to impress people, but they don't truly respect themselves. The attractive man understands that confidence isn't something you wear like expensive clothes. It's something you build through consistent actions that align with your principles. Women notice this difference far more quickly than most men realize. They can sense when confidence is authentic and when it's simply an act. A man who constantly reminds everyone of his achievements, talks over others, or tries to dominate every conversation usually isn't demonstrating strength. He's revealing insecurity hidden behind pride. Truly confident men don't need to announce their value because they trust that their behavior will reveal it naturally. They don't interrupt to be heard. They don't exaggerate their success to appear important. They don't seek opportunities to prove they're the smartest person in the room. Instead, they listen carefully, speak with intention, and allow their actions to create the impression that words alone never could. Self-respect also changes how you handle rejection, criticism, and disagreement. Men without self-respect often see rejection as an attack on their identity. They become defensive, angry, or desperate to change someone's opinion because they believe their worth depends on being accepted. A man with genuine confidence understands that not everyone will appreciate him, and that's perfectly normal. He doesn't waste energy chasing people who have already decided they aren't interested. He accepts disappointment without allowing it to destroy his confidence because he knows another person's opinion cannot erase the value he's built within himself. This emotional stability is incredibly attractive because it creates a sense of security. People naturally trust someone who remains grounded instead of reacting emotionally every time life doesn't go their way. Self-respect also influences the standards you set for every relationship in your life. You stop accepting disrespect simply because you're afraid of being alone. You stop changing your personality to fit into environments that don't appreciate who you are. You become comfortable saying no without feeling guilty because protecting your peace becomes more important than pleasing everyone around you. Many men confuse people-pleasing with kindness, but they are completely different. Kindness comes from strength, while people-pleasing often comes from fear. A man who respects himself can be compassionate without becoming a doormat. He can love deeply without losing his identity. He can support others without sacrificing his own emotional well-being. That balance creates quiet confidence that cannot be faked because it is rooted in the daily decisions he makes rather than the image he tries to project. One of the strongest indicators that you're a highly attractive man is not how you behave when life is easy, but how you respond when life becomes difficult. Anyone can appear confident when everything is going according to plan. Anyone can smile when they're winning, speak kindly when they're being praised, or remain relaxed when nothing is challenging them. The real test of character begins the moment pressure enters the room. It could be criticism, rejection, conflict, failure, or unexpected disappointment. In those moments, most people react before they think. They allow emotions to take control, saying things they later regret, or making decisions based on temporary feelings instead of lasting principles. A highly attractive man separates himself because he understands that emotional control is not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to manage emotion without allowing it to manage him. That quiet composure creates a sense of strength that people notice immediately because genuine stability has become increasingly rare in a world where emotional reactions are constantly rewarded. Many men mistakenly believe that being emotionally controlled means suppressing every feeling or pretending nothing affects them. That isn't strength, it's avoidance. Suppressed emotions eventually find another way to surface, whether through anger, frustration, resentment, or emotional distance. True emotional control is different. It means acknowledging exactly what you're feeling without allowing those feelings to dictate your behavior. You can feel disappointed without becoming destructive. You can feel angry without becoming aggressive. You can feel hurt without becoming desperate. This level of self-awareness requires maturity because it demands responsibility. Instead of blaming other people for every emotional reaction, you begin asking yourself why something affected you so deeply. That question alone separates emotionally mature men from those who spend their lives reacting to circumstances they never take the time to understand. This quality becomes especially noticeable in relationships. Arguments reveal far more about a man's character than romantic gestures ever will. Anyone can be charming during the honeymoon phase when everything feels exciting and effortless. But when misunderstandings arise, emotions become intense, and expectations collide, emotional discipline becomes incredibly valuable. A man who immediately raises his voice, becomes defensive, insults his partner, or shuts down completely communicates insecurity rather than strength. In contrast, the man who listens before reacting, chooses his words carefully, and remains respectful even during disagreement, creates emotional safety. Emotional safety is one of the most overlooked aspects of attraction because it builds trust over time. People naturally feel more connected to someone whose emotions are predictable rather than explosive, someone who solves problems instead of creating larger ones through impulsive reactions. Remaining calm under pressure also transforms the way people perceive your leadership. Leadership isn't limited to business, career, or authority. Every man leads in some area of his life, whether it's within his family, friendships, workplace, or relationship. During moments of uncertainty, people instinctively observe the emotional state of those around them. If you panic, they panic. If you become overwhelmed, they lose confidence. But if you remain composed, thoughtful, and focused, despite the pressure, your calmness becomes contagious. People begin trusting your judgment because they know you're capable of thinking clearly when others cannot. This isn't about pretending to have every answer. It's about refusing to let fear make your decisions. Calmness communicates competence because it suggests that your mind remains in control even when circumstances become unpredictable. Social media and modern culture have encouraged immediate reactions. People are expected to respond instantly, defend themselves publicly, and express every emotion the moment they experience it. But wisdom often exists in the pause between feeling and responding. Highly attractive men understand the power of silence. They don't believe every criticism deserves an answer or every disagreement deserves a battle. They know that protecting their peace is often more valuable than winning an argument. This restraint isn't weakness, it's discipline. They choose where to invest their emotional energy instead of allowing every negative opinion or minor inconvenience to dictate their mood. That ability to remain centered despite external chaos creates an undeniable presence because people recognize someone who cannot easily be shaken. Perhaps the greatest benefit of emotional control is the confidence it creates within yourself. You stop fearing difficult conversations because you trust your ability to handle them with maturity. You stop avoiding challenges because you know discomfort won't break you. You become less intimidated by rejection because your emotions no longer depend on outcomes you cannot control. Instead of living reactively, constantly waiting to see what life throws at you, you develop an inner stability that remains consistent regardless of changing circumstances. Every difficult experience becomes another opportunity to strengthen your patience, sharpen your judgment, and deepen your resilience. Over time, this emotional discipline becomes part of your identity, influencing every decision you make, every relationship you build, and every challenge you face with a level of quiet confidence that never needs to announce itself. One of the greatest misconceptions about attraction is the belief that expensive possessions automatically create lasting admiration. Many men spend years chasing bigger salaries, luxury cars, designer clothes, and symbols of success because they believe these things will make them unforgettable. While material success can certainly attract attention, attention and genuine attraction are not the same thing. Attention is temporary, emotional impact is lasting. People may notice what you drive or what you wear for a few moments, but those details quickly fade from memory. What stays with them is the emotional experience they had in your presence. They remember whether they felt respected, understood, appreciated, inspired, or completely ignored. The most attractive men recognize this difference. They don't rely on possessions to create value because they understand that real influence begins with the way they make other people feel. Their confidence comes from their character, not their lifestyle, and that's exactly why their presence leaves a much deeper impression than anything they could ever buy. Think about the people you've never forgotten. Chances are it wasn't because they owned the most expensive watch or lived in the biggest house. You remember them because of the way they treated you. Maybe they listened when everyone else was distracted. Maybe they encouraged you during a difficult period of your life. Maybe they made you feel comfortable enough to be yourself without fear of judgment. Human beings are emotional before they are logical. We may admire someone's achievements, but we connect with how they make us feel. This is why some incredibly successful men struggle to build meaningful relationships, while others with far less wealth naturally attract loyal friends, strong partners, and lasting respect. Emotional intelligence creates connections that material success alone never can. A highly attractive man understands that every interaction leaves an emotional footprint. The way he greets people, the attention he gives during conversations, and the respect he shows regardless of someone's status all contribute to how others remember him. He doesn't make people feel invisible by constantly checking his phone while they're speaking. He doesn't interrupt just to bring the conversation back to himself. He doesn't listen only to reply. He listens to understand. In a world where most people are desperate to be heard, someone who genuinely pays attention immediately stands out. Making another person feel important without expecting anything in return is a rare quality, and rarity always carries value. People leave those conversations feeling lighter, more confident, and more appreciated, often without fully understanding why they enjoyed the interaction so much. This principle becomes even more powerful in romantic relationships. Many men believe attraction is maintained by expensive gifts, luxurious dates, or constant displays of financial success. While thoughtful gestures have their place, they cannot replace emotional connection. A woman is far more likely to remember how safe she felt sharing her fears with you than the price of the restaurant you chose. She will remember whether you respected her opinions, whether you remained present during difficult conversations, and whether your words consistently matched your actions. Trust is built through emotional consistency, not financial generosity alone. A man who creates peace, security, and understanding in a relationship offers something far more valuable than temporary excitement. Emotional experiences become memories, and memories shape the way people feel about you long after individual moments have passed. Another reason emotionally impactful men are so attractive is because they make others feel accepted rather than evaluated. Too many conversations today feel like competitions. People compare achievements, salaries, appearances, and lifestyles, constantly trying to establish who has higher status. A man with genuine confidence has no interest in making others feel small just so he can feel important. Instead, he creates an atmosphere where people can relax and be authentic. His confidence isn't threatened by someone else's success, intelligence, or popularity. Because he isn't competing with everyone around him, people naturally feel comfortable around him. Comfort is one of the strongest foundations of attraction because it allows trust to grow without pressure or pretense. This doesn't mean becoming a people pleaser or sacrificing your standards simply to make everyone happy. In fact, trying to please everyone usually has the opposite effect because it feels inauthentic. The goal isn't to gain universal approval, but to treat people with genuine respect while remaining true to your own values. You can disagree without humiliating someone. You can set boundaries without being cruel. You can be honest without being unnecessarily harsh. Emotional maturity allows you to balance kindness with strength, compassion with confidence, and empathy with self-respect. Those qualities create an emotional presence that people naturally gravitate toward because they feel valued rather than judged whenever they're around you. The men who leave the deepest impression aren't always the loudest, the richest, or the most physically attractive. They're the ones whose presence changes the emotional atmosphere of a room. They bring calm instead of chaos, confidence instead of insecurity, and encouragement instead of constant criticism. People begin looking forward to seeing them because interactions with them consistently leave them feeling better than before. Over time, that emotional impact becomes part of their reputation, making them memorable in ways that no possession, status symbol, or display of wealth could ever accomplish. One of the most overlooked signs of a highly attractive man is his ability to establish and protect healthy boundaries. Many people misunderstand boundaries, assuming they are walls that keep others out, or signs that someone is cold, distant, or difficult to approach. In reality, boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about teaching people how to treat you. They reflect the level of respect you have for yourself, your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being. A man without boundaries often believes he is being kind, generous, or easygoing, but over time he finds himself feeling exhausted, taken for granted, and emotionally drained. He says yes when he wants to say no, accepts disrespect to avoid conflict, and sacrifices his own needs just to keep other people comfortable. While this behavior may earn temporary approval, it rarely earns lasting respect. The highly attractive man understands that respect always begins with the standards you set for yourself before expecting them from anyone else. Strong boundaries communicate confidence without saying a single word. They tell people that your life has purpose, your time has value, and your attention is not available to everyone at every moment. This doesn't mean becoming unavailable or acting superior. It simply means recognizing that your energy is limited and choosing carefully where you invest it. Every time you allow someone to repeatedly disrespect you, ignore your values, or take advantage of your kindness without consequence, you silently teach them that your standards are flexible. People naturally test limits, whether in friendships, relationships, or professional environments. A man with healthy boundaries responds calmly but firmly, making it clear what behavior he accepts and what behavior he refuses to tolerate. He doesn't create unnecessary drama, but he also doesn't remain silent when something consistently violates his principles. Many men fear setting boundaries because they confuse them with rejection. They worry that saying no will make people dislike them, that speaking honestly will create conflict, or that walking away from unhealthy situations will leave them alone. This fear often leads them to prioritize being liked over being respected. But attraction rarely grows from desperation to please everyone. In fact, people tend to value those who value themselves. When you constantly sacrifice your own needs to avoid disappointing others, you unintentionally communicate that your priorities matter less than everyone else's. Over time, this creates imbalance in every relationship. The attractive man understands that genuine relationships can survive honesty. If someone only appreciates you when you ignore your own needs, that connection was never built on mutual respect in the first place. Boundaries become especially important in romantic relationships. Many men believe love means unlimited availability, endless compromise, and tolerating behavior that slowly destroys their peace of mind. They stay in one-sided relationships because they're afraid of losing someone, even if remaining costs them their confidence, self-respect, and emotional stability. A highly attractive man approaches relationships differently. He gives affection generously, but not at the expense of his dignity. He communicates openly about his expectations instead of hoping the other person will magically understand them. If trust is repeatedly broken, if respect disappears, or if manipulation becomes a pattern, he doesn't ignore the warning signs simply because he's emotionally attached. He understands that love without respect eventually becomes emotional exhaustion, and he refuses to build a relationship on foundations that cannot support long-term happiness. Strong boundaries also protect your focus and ambition. Every successful man eventually learns that not every opportunity deserves his attention, and not every request deserves an immediate yes. There will always be people asking for your time, your advice, your energy, or your presence. Without clear priorities, your life becomes controlled by everyone else's expectations instead of your own purpose. The highly attractive man knows how to protect his schedule because he understands that every commitment carries a hidden cost. Saying yes to one thing often means saying no to something else that may matter far more. He doesn't apologize for protecting the habits, routines, and responsibilities that move his life forward. His discipline becomes part of his identity because he refuses to allow constant distractions to steal the future he's working to build. Perhaps the most powerful boundary a man can develop is the willingness to walk away from anything that consistently undermines his self-respect. Whether it's toxic friendships, unhealthy relationships, manipulative environments, or situations that demand he become someone he's not, he recognizes that staying out of fear always costs more than leaving with dignity. Walking away is not an act of pride, it's an act of self-respect. It requires emotional strength because it often means choosing temporary discomfort over long-term dissatisfaction. People naturally admire those who have the courage to protect their peace instead of sacrificing it for acceptance. That quiet willingness to stand by your values, even when it isn't easy, creates a level of confidence that cannot be manufactured because it is built on the belief that your worth is never dependent on someone's willingness to stay in your life. One of the most powerful signs that you're a highly attractive man is something that many people never think about. It's not what happens when you enter a room. It's what people feel after you've left it. The strongest presence is often measured by absence. If your absence makes no difference, then your presence probably wasn't meaningful to begin with. But when people notice that something feels different without you, when conversations lose energy, when your opinions are missed, or when someone catches themselves thinking about you long after the interaction has ended, it reveals that your value goes far beyond appearances or first impressions. Highly attractive men don't create this impact by demanding attention or constantly inserting themselves into every situation. They create it by consistently bringing qualities that cannot be replaced: character, emotional stability, authenticity, and genuine value. These are the things people remember when you're no longer standing in front of them. Many men believe that staying constantly available will make them more important. They answer every message immediately, cancel their own plans whenever someone calls, and become permanently accessible because they fear that creating distance will make people lose interest. In reality, constant availability often has the opposite effect. Human beings naturally appreciate what has value, and value is often connected to scarcity. This isn't about pretending to be busy or intentionally playing games with people. It's about having a life that is full enough that your world doesn't revolve around seeking someone else's attention. A man who has meaningful goals, responsibilities, passions, and personal growth naturally cannot be everywhere all the time. His absence isn't manufactured. It is the result of living a purposeful life. That purpose makes every interaction more valuable because people know your attention is genuine, not given out of boredom or desperation. Your absence creates impact because people remember consistency more than intensity. Anyone can create excitement for a few days by saying all the right things or making dramatic gestures. But excitement fades quickly when it's not supported by reliability and character. A highly attractive man builds trust over time through his actions. He keeps his promises, remains emotionally steady, treats people with respect, and behaves with integrity regardless of who is watching. Because these qualities are consistent, people begin associating him with stability. When someone like that is no longer present, others naturally recognize the difference. They miss the calmness he brought into conversations, the confidence he displayed without arrogance, and the emotional maturity that made others feel understood instead of judged. His absence leaves a space because he contributed something meaningful every time he was present.